Hi everyone, welcome to Web Access Matters. I'm your host, Pedro Velhinho, and joining me today is Stefany Newman. She's an accessibility consultant, a WCAG expert, and Udemy instructor, and so many other things. We'll talk about WCAG 2.2, ADA, EAA, accessibility in general, and how AI will help accessibility going forward, and so many other topics. Stay tuned. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Stefany, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to participate in this podcast. It's really amazing to have you here.
Good to be here.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, let's jump in. I really love to know, like, how your background and how do you get to come into web accessibility? What can you tell us about the journey?
Yeah, so I started as a full stack developer back when PHP was a thing. And then as I progressed through, I was learning a lot. And then, but I wasn't making the websites accessible because I didn't know better. Then we had I had a family member who was an amputee, and then it just opened my mind about how everything is inaccessible. And ever since then, I've been trying to. I was solely focused on accessibility and making sure that my content and websites and apps are also accessible. So it's a very personal journey. I think it's also for a lot of people.
Right, amazing stuff. And how do you go from that to like teaching what you know? I know that you have a lot of courses in Udemy and so on. Like, how do you go from that personal journey into teaching others to do the same?
Yeah, I have a Udemy courses and I have I think about 20,000 students there. I there are very little information about accessibility, especially when I started. So I wanted to make sure it spreads to a lot of people, and it also helps me become a better accessibility expert as I teach others. And I'm also very interested in learning. I'm reading this book called Make It Stick, which is an amazing book about learning how to learn. And I think when you work in accessibility, you have to be of service of others all the time, because we can make such a big impact, and teaching others just makes accessibility more accessible. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally agree. And what do you think? Like 20,000 students, it's a lot. What do you think has been like the? I mean, I don't, not necessarily the question, but what is on the students' minds when they come to you and want to learn more about web accessibility?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of my students are part of a company that has bought the course for them or have subscribed to them. And I have QA, I have designers, developers, people who are mixtures of those, program managers, and they all learn. And the thing with accessibility is, you always have to be, you need to know a lot of it. So even if you're just a developer, you still need to know legislation, design, how to test. And I think it really helps people to have like a well-rounded understanding.
Great. That's great stuff. Yeah, and speaking of companies, I know, so you've been around in many like high visibility companies like Microsoft and Airbnb and so on. And from those companies working in accessibility, what were like the biggest challenges working for those companies in terms of accessibility, of course?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is convincing stakeholders about the importance of accessibility. And I think a big issue is that we are very technical people, the accessibility people, and but stakeholders are usually not developers, so you need to speak their language. You need to talk through the lens of risk management, and that's really difficult. So I had to get better at communication. And another thing that is difficult is I actually in most of my roles I was fixing accessibility, and there isn't like a lot of information still about ARIA and screen reader compatibility, so you have to test a lot. And yeah, but I learned a lot at those companies, and you can see that they really wanted to make everything accessible. Right now, I'm an independent accessibility consultant, so I work with companies and I audit, and I also fix the website. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And do you find it easier now to go into? I guess the question is, do people take you more seriously now that you're independent and that you come in like as an expert, or as opposed to when you were working within those companies?
That's a good question. My clients usually come to me because they need this website audited, and I don't need to convince them that it's important to be audited. They just need someone to do it very quickly and someone who's good at it. So, yeah, I do actually a lot more work now than when I was working at those companies.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because they're paying for you, and then you want to make like the best of every buck, right? I'd say that.
Exactly.
That's been my feeling also throughout these years. Um, like we've been talking about the web accessibility, but I would love to have your take on what that web accessibility actually is for our listeners that are out there that just stumbled upon the podcast. Can you like give us an idea of what web accessibility is and why is it so important in this digital age?
Yeah, so web accessibility is making sure websites and web apps are accessible to as many people as possible, not just people with disabilities, but people who, for example, broke their hands, people who have migraines or hangover people too. People have been there,
Can
And,
relate.
right, making sure that making sure that they can operate, they can achieve their goals with the website or web app, regardless of their abilities. What do you think about it? How do you define it?
No, that's a good description. I usually define it as the most democratic way of providing content to people, right? Because information I wouldn't say it's power, but information is a way for people to get better, to improve themselves. And if everyone has the same level of access to every bit of information, every bit of content, like that democratization of information, I think the world will be a better place for it. So yeah, it's implicit, that accessibility, right? That's why when I describe or when I use a definition for accessibility, I don't
Yes.
like to use the word disability,
Yes.
just because everyone has their, like you said, a migraine, a headache, photosensibility. Like when you work, everyone has some special need in some point in time. And
Yeah.
if we make sure that the content is accessible for all at any given time, I think that's beautiful. I know, it's a utopian dream, but we're people like you, people like me are fighting to make it a reality. So yeah, that's amazing stuff.
Yeah, fighting the good life and fighting the good fight.
The good life too, right? It
Right.
comes with it. Yeah, it comes with it. So yeah, that's cool. No, yeah, that's amazing. And jumping into like when like everyone knows, or at least the one people in the industry, like, when we talk about accessibility, like the WCAG or the WCAG always comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's been like the 2.0, 2.1. Now it's 2.2 coming right around the corner. Um, what do you think is going to be the main differences for these 2.2? Because something that has been, I remember, if I'm going to say back in the day, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when I started looking into this, I always had to make sure people I would ask me, oh, do we comply with 2.0, with 2.1, or
Right.
both? And I always said, look, you always strive to look into the most recent one, but you always make sure that the gap of those two is filled out and you don't miss anything. With 2.2, what do you think is going to change, and how do you think we need to approach this?
2.2 has a lot of has good success criteria, especially for cognitive disabilities, like accessible authentication is a big one to make sure that you don't have to remember your password and username to log in. And I agree with you. People get a little bit too technical with the WCAG. So the thing is, I think the WCAG is a good baseline, and then you build on top of it, because especially you have those success criteria. Like right now, target size 44 by 44 is a AAA success criteria, and whenever people see AAA, they just ignore it. But you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to implement AAA as much as possible. However, since I think it's very spread that WCAG is the baseline, I think a lot of accessibility experts just ignore it. But it is very important that you know the success criteria and you know what they stand for so you can have that base. What do you think, especially about 2.2?
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, and 2.2 is going to make that the difference. But just picking up on something you said about the AAA, the AA, and the A.
Yeah.
It's been a pet peeve of mine that we have those three tiers. Let's say,
Yeah,
the, yeah, because it's saying that, for example, if you just work for DA, say, oh, you can do the bare minimum, and that's okay. I usually don't like that approach to things. You either do it, and you try to do it to the best of your ability, and that's the way it should be, right? For example, when you go and take your driver's license, there's no minimum for you to do it, right? You need to do it well. You need to have an A or triple A or whatever. You need just to pass. And with websites, I feel the same. I feel that if we allow for the bare minimum, we are not being as demanding as we should be, and that's why across the board, so many websites do not follow even DA. I know I can going in. One of I do not want to joke with PTSD. That's not it. But I always every time I hear button on a website or an app, and I don't know what the button does, I just go insane because it's so easy. It's so easy for someone to put the damn alt text there, So
true, true. Yeah, that's a very easy lift.
yeah, and so that's why when we divide this in tiers, and let's be honest, 90% of, I don't know, 90 or 99% of the companies are just going to strive for the bare minimum. That's it, because that's all we need to do. Okay, let's do that instead of the rest. Like you said, no one looks at AAA,
No.
and AA. I'm not even sure. In Portugal, where I'm from, it's the same thing. We have the bronze, the silver, and the gold. Yeah, how many sites do you think there are with silver and gold? Pretty much zero. At least, oh no, wait, I'm being unfair. There are a couple that are from the government, but they need to be in silver and gold. So that's it. So yeah, I think this was a rant, and I apologize for my rant, but it's something that's very dear to me, because when I go into websites and I still see so many basic mistakes not being addressed, I always think of, we need to be more demanding. And this takes me to something else. It's going up. So very recently, the European Accessibility Act came into place in Europe,
All right.
of course. Yeah, and something that I've been talking about is how the onus now is on the people to complain about things, complain about the websites that are not they're not accessible, or they're and like that. And I wanted to know your opinion on this. Like, should not the power, but should people have to complain, or should there be something in place that would make sure that it's accessible from scratch?
Yes, the issue with waiting for people to complain is that, first of all, we're all very busy, right? And second of all, especially when you have a disability, you already have to fight every day just to exist like other people, and now having to always have to be you to complain. And then there's the third thing of a lot of companies just ignore complaints. So yeah, everything should be accessible from the ground up. And there's absolutely have to be a feedback loop, but you shouldn't rely on that to fix accessibility. Do you think the EAA will make things better now with European accessibility?
Let me be honest. I mean, not that I wasn't honest. I'm always honest. I always like that expression. No, but honestly, I was very skeptic before I spoke with Gareth Williams, which was in our podcast a few weeks ago. I was very skeptic because, like I was saying, it relies on people to complain. But then he remarked that they will not complain to the company; they will complain to a local organization or a local institution that will make sure that the companies will address those issues. So
Really?
So in a way, I'm more optimistic because there will be some supervision going there. There will be some fines that to the companies that do not comply with those complaints. So I'm optimistic on that. I'm really optimistic. On the other hand, bringing that power into the local government or local institution level, uh, I I it's sometimes it's politics just gets in the way, and I shouldn't be saying this because we're going into elections in a couple of months, but I don't know. Again, I'm much more optimistic. It's just that I'll wait and see. I'll wait and see. And the other thing is EAA, and I'm curious to see how they will coexist, the WCAG and the EAA, because the EAA was not made having in mind the WCAG, right? They're two independent things that we need to address when we're looking into accessibility. I just hope that things will improve and people that will look to both and not just one. Because if I say, oh, you didn't do this, and they say, oh, but we did it according to WCAG or according to the EAA, yeah, things will get messy. And what do you think is the relationship between the ADA and the WCAG in the US specifically?
Yeah, in the US, it's kind of complicated because we have the government is separated in two. There's the federal government and their state government. So the Rehabilitation Act of 1974 gave birth to Section 508. So all federal agency, and right now Section 508 is federal agencies have to be accessible to people with disabilities. But it wasn't until 1990 where with the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed that made places of public accommodation basically private companies. Okay, you need to have a disabled parking, you need to have a bathroom that's accessible to people with disabilities. And right now, the ADA for for private companies do not mention web accessibility, but a lot of lawsuits have cited saying, yeah, public accommodation in a website is the same thing. So it's and then the ADA, how it goes back to the WCAG is for Section 508, it's still WCAG 2.0, which was,
Ouch.
yes. I think for ADA Title 2, which is state government, that's WCAG 2.1. So this is a little bit better. So I think I really like the WCAG as a basis to all of those laws because it's an international standard. Is it similar in Portugal?
Uh, yeah, so in Portugal, we do have the WCAG. I mean, privately, companies do go by the WCAG 2.1, most of them, because not because they didn't know, not because they want the latest, just because they didn't know that the 2.0 ever existed very much. Because accessibility in Portugal is a fairly recent a novelty or a fairly recent thing that people are addressing, and they're only doing it because again the EAA we've been talking about this for the last 2 years more heavily. In terms of governments, yeah, they are obliged to comply with the WCAG. Usually they go into the most recent one. So for now it's a 2.1. Hopefully they'll go into the 2.2 also. And they have to do those bronze, silver, and gold tiers. But the process is very arduous. You need to set up focus groups. You need to do so. Yeah, the process is a very, very complicated thing. It's especially for digital accessibility in Portuguese. Yeah, it's very complicated. The process is very complex, and it takes up to 6 months, a year to be completed. So
Really?
government, yeah. So local governments they try to comply. The central government has to comply, but most private institutions they just don't do it. They use, and this will take me to the next question. They use, and now the word just ran, not layers, outlay, the
Accessibility overlay?
overlay. That's thank you so much. That's exactly what I want to say. They use overlays to try and
Cheap and quick.
mitigate. Let's say mitigate the lack of accessibility, which for my experience and my experience alone, it doesn't work with most screen readers. It's just an awful experience for me. What's your take on overlays and how they affect the usability and the accessibility on the websites?
Yeah, so overlays are similar. Like if you have a crack in your foundation, you're gonna need to have a builder come and fix it, but you can also put a band-aid on it. It's not going to fix anything, but you're thinking you're doing something. So overlays, and unfortunately, especially those who claim, oh, we can just fix your website with one line of code, is just very misleading, and they shouldn't make claims like that. And the problem is that then website owners think that the issue is fixed, so they never fix it. Or they say, oh, that's just temporarily. But in business, every time you say temporarily or we'll take care of it, that never happens. You need to do it right now. Uh, and you said a lot of them are not compatible with screen readers.
At least the voiceover. So I use mostly voiceover on my phone, my iPhone. Every time I find a website with overlays, it just does not work. I found that most websites, if they just iOS, yeah. I can speak about Android because I do not use it as much, but iOS I'm a heavy user, and I find that the developments, or at least the improvements that Apple does to the screen reader, to VoiceOver, and to Safari itself, sometimes mitigate the fact that there's no accessibility on the website, especially for screen recognition and some little AI features. But when they have overlays, the experience is just worse for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah. So because it kind of it stops, let's say, the iPhone from doing its job. It interferes with VoiceOver and with the screen recognition, and I just can't go anywhere. And there's a huge I'm not going to say the names, but there's a huge sports warehouse in Portugal that uses overlays, and I just stopped buying there because it's an awful experience.
Well, it's a good thing they lost a client, though. Maybe that will make them.
Yeah, that's. I think that's true, right? When we like a brand, I was having this conversation a few weeks ago about this, because talking about specifically about Apple, right? I didn't used to like Apple. I thought they were overpriced. They were boasting a lot about what I didn't like Apple. Not the products, because I never used the Apple products until then, but the company itself. There was too much boosting there. But then I bought a Samsung around 2012, a Samsung phone.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 minutes trying to write a text message.
Oh.
And it was an Android phone. And I just said, yeah, this is no. So the next day I went in, I exchanged it for my first iPhone, the iPhone 5. And now I'm at iPhone 15 Pro. So I think it worked. And I still say that they are overpriced. They're very expensive. But the experience and the fact that I don't have to worry about most things in my iPhone is just a peace of mind for me.
I can see that. Yeah, they're expensive, but they're worth the money. And you did mention something like that for TalkBack on Android, you need to have actually an expensive phone to work
exactly.
properly, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. So it's like, because Apple sets up the requirements, right? The specifications for every iPhone, so they make sure that everything works. Not to say that on older iPhones, VoiceOver sometimes is also very slow, but okay, that's to be expected. It's an older phone.
Yeah. Yes.
But right now, if you go to a store and you buy, that actually Samsung makes it easier. If you buy a Samsung, an A15, an A35, an A55, and then the S25, you'll have 4 very different experiences with TalkBack. The A15 is very, very slow. It's all pretty much unusable. And of course, the S25, which is what, 1,200 euros or $1,200, it's going to work perfectly. And that's amazing. But again, for that kind of money, I buy an iPhone. And
just get an iPhone.
Yeah, and I know that it's going to work. And look, I just bought an iPhone SE for my mother, like a reconditioned one. The SE, I think it was released in 22, 23. It still works, and I can still help her with the VoiceOver. So So Apple makes sure that it works for a few years. TalkBack has that It's a bit more troublesome. I use that word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, that's why, lived experiences are so important.
But
So
you also use screen readers, right, in your work for testing and so on.
yeah, so I primarily test with VoiceOver, like you, on the Mac. I also have NVDA for Windows, and that's the thing with accessibility testing. You need to have a lot of devices and well, operating systems you actually need to, but it also depends on your market. But VoiceOver is my favorite screen reader to test with. It's very clean and tells you, works how it's supposed to work. So yeah, and it comes built in with the machine. That's another thing. With NVDA and JAWS, you have to install it, and that's a bit of a barrier too.
Yeah, and especially Jaws. Recently, there's been like this. They now changed the way that they are charging people from. There's a whole buzz around the way that they're
Really?
pricing stuff. Yeah, I'm not a Jaws user. I just heard this on another podcast. So I was never a Jaws, let's say, fan. I always try to use NVDA. And as weird as it seems, I sometimes use Microsoft Sam, the narrator, just because it was fun to hear the voice in the beginning.
Really? You changed the voice on narrator to Microsoft?
Yeah, no, yeah. I used the default voice because I found it so funny. So yeah, that was fun to use for a while. But then I installed NVIDIA, yeah, and things just went really well. Um, yeah, let's. I mean, we kind of drove ourselves from the main topic, but yeah, I had another question about your like the way for developers, like when you're dealing with developers, especially for those companies you work with, like what are the assumptions that they bring to you? Like, what things do you need to explain the most when you're talking to those developers about accessibility?
Yeah, that's a good question. The most often question I'm asked is, how would a blind person see what's on the screen if they're blind? So then I try to explain that blindness is a spectrum, that profoundly blind people are they are a subset of blindness, and I try to explain what a screen reader is. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. And another thing is also trying to explain about ARIA and how it is implemented. So a lot of developers think they just have to put ARIA on everything. So that's usually what I address right away.
Okay. And do you think that they know about accessibilities, or are they? It's the first contact that they're having with accessibility and blindness, or not blindness, special needs.
Right. I think a big issue is that companies don't conduct user testing anymore, or they very rarely conduct user testing with disabled users. Because if you have an IT team, you have a web development team that they've never done accessibility, and the company starts testing with disabled users, and they bring those at the meetings, they can improve their empathy because they can see, okay, that's how disabled people operate our website, and it's not accessible. So I think that's a big thing companies can do to educate developers more.
Okay, yeah, totally agree. And what are the most common mistakes that they usually that you see when dealing with those companies?
Mistakes like development mistakes, like
Yeah, like mistake, like said button.
okay, yeah. So like with buttons, especially graphic buttons, like buttons that has X, that have no text on them, it just says button, or even worse, like will read out the X, or it will read out multiplication sign. Then there's ARIA labels. Either ARIA labels you put on every single link or no link at all. There's like no middle ground. And the raw menu is also, they use that in navigation, which you're not supposed to do that. So those are the biggest thing I see. And when I start auditing a website, the first thing is if they have an auto playing video, that's the first thing you flag. So what about you? What do you find that's often?
Yeah, so the most common mistakes that I find is tags, is labels, which are so annoying.
Mm.
Both as like an accessibility consultant, because those are so basic, and you find yourself looking at to ICO underscore 537 whatever, which is a huge name. or even image labels. Sometimes they're just, I don't know, 16 characters long, which is just gibberish. But as a user, the buttons for
Hmm.
me are the pet peeve. That's really my pet peeve, because it's so simple, right? When you're creating the, like, especially if you're a designer creating those buttons, or if you're a developer implementing those buttons, it's just so easy to replace them with the CTA that you want people to do, right? Uh,
Yeah, I agree. Something so simple that they don't even take into consideration, and it's so vital too.
yeah, exactly. No, that's it. It's vital. it The amount of sales that they must lose in every site just because of that. I would love to have those numbers, to be honest. Unfortunately, I don't know how to capture that, but I would love to have those numbers just because it's just insane. Um, but yeah, those are the troubles that we see today, and I would love to see the trend, to have that trend just not being a trend, just be a reality. Uh, Actually, let me just tell you a story. Uh, I have a friend. I think I told this story before, but I have a friend. He's an iOS developer, and he was developing an app, a drums app for the iPhone that took advantage of the accelerometer and the positioning of the iPhone. Like an amazing app.
Right.
And he told me to try it out. And I said, yeah, cool, no worries. I love drumming. So I
Also,
download.
I like drawing.
Yeah. Actually, you don't see, but on our first podcast, we have a bunch of guitars behind me. Just
Oh,
yeah, because
cool.
I'm that cool. And
Of course.
I love the guitars. I don't play it that much or at all, but I love guitar as a piece of art. So yeah. But the drums. So I download the app. I installed it. I went through the tutorial. I used it. Amazing. Like I said, hey, my friend, I thank you so much for taking care of accessibility labels. I mean, I was able to do this from beginning
Yeah.
to end without help. Like, thank you. And his answer was, what accessibility label?
What?
He said, but wait, didn't you use the buttons? No, man, I just followed the SDK from Apple. So it means that, like I'm picking up this example from App. So it means that the SDK for developers tells them how to do things, and they just skip all those steps, right? They just don't pay attention on how things should be done. It's like, I don't know, assembling an IKEA shelf, and I know how to do this, and then it just skip a lot of screws. I know that's the metaphor that comes to mind. So if only developers just follow through on things, right? That's
Oh yeah, like the WCJ, because you can just publish any website, but with apps it's more strict. Because because with with Apple's is more strict. Android is probably more lax on that regard, right?
Yeah, yeah. My experience with Android apps is more like, for every app that I found that's accessible, like two or three are not. Whilst in the Apple ecosystem is the other way around. More apps are accessible than not. And I just actually I'm finishing up a game, just one. I think it won app of the year or game of the year. It's called Land of Livia, and it's a game which is total accessible, like 100% accessible. It's very good.
That's amazing. What's the
Hmm.
name of the game again?
I think it's a Land of Livia.
Land of Livia.
Yeah,
Okay, I need to
yeah,
check it out.
yeah. It's an RPG. It's yeah, I mean, I think it was the I heard an interview from the main developer, and the idea was to create a relaxing game. But whilst they were creating it, they realized that by doing that, they could just create an accessible game for the voiceover. So I navigate the game
There you
through
go.
voiceover. Exactly, yeah, right. Things just come like that. So it's really cool. It's really cool that at least it's having some media time, some screen time, that people, oh, there's an accessible game. That's really cool, especially for me, as a blind user and as a blind. I was going to say blind gamer, but I cannot call me that. That's just the one game that I'm doing right now.
And leisure is important because a lot of people have misconceptions that disabled people do not have fun or do anything fun, or like you don't need to make it accessible for disabled people, but it's so important because you need leisure and it's good for your mental health to relax and accessible, making it, yeah. And like you said, if you just follow the rules, go a long way.
Yeah. It's that sense of normality, right? That sense of
Yes, yes.
that. Oh, it's okay. I usually say that my blindness is just a personality trait. It does not
Hmm.
define me, but it does help to define my personality. But it's just who I am. But yeah, we digress. Yeah, I was talking about trends and looking forwards. Oh, what trends do you see coming to accessibility, especially to web accessibility?
Well, right now, AI is going around saying that AI can fix everything. And I don't ask ChatGPT for accessibility at all because every time I asked it, like, oh, okay, tell me about alt text images. And he says every image should have alt text. That's not true. There's decorative images. Yes. Or if you ask the question like, oh, is it okay if my link has the area label of this text? It just agrees with you, right? And so if I have a more complicated question or just a question, I just Google and I try to find people's blogs uh, and then read. Though ChatGPT is good if I need a number of success criteria, like, okay, what is label in name? Okay, 2.5.3. So just simple things that you can just find out Googling. So yeah, ChatGPT is like a trend, but I don't, the AI, I don't think it's gonna, I think it's just gonna make things worse. We
Really?
got that, yeah, yeah, especially because like with books, right? People don't read books anymore because they want everything to be very quick to them. But if you don't read the book, then you have so many gaps in knowledge. All and like if you just text ChatGPT and like lawyers, why are lawyers still exist if ChatGPT can give you answers to all of your lawyer questions, right? We need lawyers now more than ever. So and then I think virtual reality accessibility is something I've been very curious about. So virtual reality, I think the trends go up and down, but it's also important that they are accessible as well. So what do you think are the trends coming in?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily GPT, but in terms of and I'm going to speak more about accessibility as a whole, not just web accessibility. I think that the AI assistant is trending, especially for I'm gonna again this is personal, like for the blind community. I think an
Yes.
AI assistants are a big help, and we're seeing mm, mm, let's say mainstream companies looking into this. I mean, not necessarily looking into this, but releasing products that are actually helping us out. For example, I can say the Meta smart glasses or some Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses, right? They were released to make people to help people post more into Instagram, Facebook, and so on. But all of a
Yes.
sudden, because they are so reasonably priced, blind people are using it in their everyday life. Just hey, ChatGPT, what?
Really?
Yeah, ChatGPT. Sorry, hey Meta, what am I holding? Oh, you're holding a can of beans. Awesome! I can cook now. So people are using it a lot because of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it can describe what's in front of you, and tell you, oh, there's this cafe is in front of you. The door is on your bottom left corner. You're like 20 meters away from it, something like that. So it's really helpful.
Dang,
Yeah,
it's detailed.
it is. It's not perfect, but I think it will get there because they just released now I think it's so the first ones were Meta Ray-Bans. Now they have another brand also involved, with more better battery life. But that's the thing; they're not created for blind users. They're created for the mainstream, for everyone. But with Meta AI, they are helping everyone. They are helping especially the blind and visually impaired, which is
See,
yeah.
that's a great example how they, created it and everyone uses it. So do you have a pair of those glasses?
No, because unfortunately they don't ship to Portugal, so I need to go either abroad or convince one of my friends that lives abroad to buy me one. So
What?
I'm in negotiations for that to happen with a friend that lives in the Netherlands. So let's see how that goes. But I'm very eager to have those to have a pair of those and try it out. as opposed to the specific, to those. There are other glasses specifically developed for the blind, but they are exponentially more expensive. I would say that if the Ray-Bans cost around $300,
Yeah.
the other ones cost around $1,500, $1,500. Yeah, the difference is huge. So yeah, that's why that it's very prohibitive price, I'd say, for specific technology.
That's right, because if you have a product that's used by as many people as possible, but not limited just to a person with a disability, you get more income with that
Yes,
product.
exactly,
And then you
exactly.
can put down the price. I mean, the price can be more reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I've been a fan of Ray-Bans all my life, and I don't mind paying $300 because they look really good on me, and with the added bonus that I can actually navigate and walk around. If I drop my keys, like it can pinpoint where it is. So, and it's not just that. Like even there's an app called Seeing AI. I think it was developed also with the help of Microsoft. It works.
Yeah.
It works pretty much in the same way. You use your camera, your camera phone, or the camera on your phone, and you point and hey, what's there, and it just describes live what it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I think the trend, Be My Eyes, it released Be My AI last year, right? Where you take a picture and you can ask what's in the picture and so on. So I use Be My AI to do the laundry, to find what program to use. So I think AI, it is a trend, but for accessibility, it's amazing. It's a trend that is coming, and it's really really helpful. Where we don't there's a margin of error, of course there is, and we do need
Oh,
to
yeah.
be careful, of course. But I would say that 90% of what we use right now is just perfect, and it's just going to improve with usage. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh, that's a great insight. Yeah, I was busy being angry at AI for writing bad code, but yeah, and especially the glasses, because like if you, let's say you're blind and you break your arm, right? Or unfortunately, or you get an amputation, you don't need to hold it and point. Yeah, that's great. I need to look forward to that. Let me know when you get the glasses moving into Portugal.
Yeah, I'll definitely do like a review because in Portugal I don't know anyone that has them. So yeah, but it's even more simpler than that. It's, for example, if I go shopping, I have my cane and I have my bags. Now what? How do I,
All right.
right? How do I open the door with my keys? How do I do what? Right? It's so
You need to
it's
grow more arms, Pedro.
yeah, definitely definitely. That would be just interesting. Yeah, so it kind of, I always say that accessibility, it's a way of providing more autonomy to everyone,
Autonomy, yeah.
including us, of course. And I think that AI is giving us that autonomy instead of us, the blind community or the visually impaired community, instead of us just calling someone, hey, I need your help. I need what's this and what's that. Which Be My Eyes is an amazing app and provides that help, but not being reliable on someone else because we
Yeah.
can do it by ourselves. It's just amazing, right? It's and remember, we are, everyone gets old, everyone loses a bit of sight. Like every year it gets worse, especially now that we use screens every day. We will need that, or most people will need that help, that extra help. And if we can get that autonomy to everyone, I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, and it also helps because a lot of people are introverts too, and they like being by themselves and having to ask for help all the time. It's just and it's taxing and even yeah, I agree with you.
That vulnerability. Not everyone wants to show
Oh yeah.
that vulnerability. Yeah, that's, wow. This was quite a quite a tour, detour, but yeah, amazing conversation. Let me pull us back to accessibility, Stephanie. Um, Something that I always struggle is with tools. Um, so it's a good thing that we are addressing website accessibility and making it
Yeah.
accessible for users, for, let's say, consumers, buyers, whatever. But for myself, like working in digital marketing for many years, something that I've always struggled is the tools that I use, the web-based tools, whether from Google, from Meta, uh, SEMrush, and so many others that I use. Like, why do you think that no one addresses these issues? Is it because there are so few users from this, or is just people don't even think about it?
Now, when you say about tools, which ones do you mean exactly?
Google Analytics, Google Search
Oh, right.
Console, yeah, SEMrush, a bunch of web-based tools that we use, that I use every day, for example. Even podcasting tools, web-based podcasting
Oh,
tools
right.
that are not accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to authoring tools, exactly, analytics is not more authoring, but like WordPress, let's say the Gutenberg editor, like if you go to like Reddit and you want to add a comment, this is really, really undervalued, and just nobody thinks about it because as bad as accessibility is outwards, it's even worse inwards. Because when it comes to employee accessibility or authoring tools, I don't know, just people, they just don't think about it at all. And they are very limited. Like you said, not everyone is a marketing expert like you. So there are fewer people using it. And that's why it's important for accessibility to be in the company's policy as well. Um,
No, that's definitely. And I always go to this example that some years ago I was trying to do my certification in Google Analytics, and I just couldn't because I couldn't navigate the test. And I reached out to Google, to the chat that was on the bottom right corner, and the
right.
person there told me that, oh yeah, sorry, we know that exists. Okay, is there a way that we can like? Is there a way that I can be certificate that I can be certified? Oh no, sorry, there's no way you could do that, and we also don't have we cannot predict when we are going to address it, if ever. Ouch.
That's
Special,
awful.
yeah, ouch. Especially coming from Google, and to be honest, I've in the past there were like these job opportunities that specifically asked for Google certified, Google Analytics certified, and I was like, I've I've
Oh,
been using Google Analytics for 18 years or 15 or 16, 14
yeah,
at the
you're a
time.
pro.
Yeah, and why can I? Yeah, it's so that's why when I look into accessibility, web accessibility specifically, I always think about these tools, about the back end of things, because it's something that no one is talking about, and maybe it's a very
Yeah.
niche within the niche that it is accessibility. But again, it's something that I would love, especially for a company like Google, right, to address, or Meta. Every time I need to do a campaign on Meta, there's no problem on asking for my credit card, but making it accessible, there's always an issue there. So yeah, I always need to. So yeah, recently I started using, again, seeing AI and pointing my phone into the screen for it to describe stuff that I can do. So maybe AI will save me from all this.
Yeah, but you don't. It's bad that you have to rely on those adaptive strategies. You want them to be out of the box. So, do you have a tool that's really accessible that you use?
Excel.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I mean Excel, and not even Google Sheets. 'Cause Google Sheets sometimes it breaks a bit, but Excel itself, Microsoft Excel, is very very accessible. It's just one of those that I
Oh.
can navigate with VoiceOver. There's a lot of shortcuts, a lot of stuff so that I can use very proficiently. Yeah,
So, do you install Excel on your Mac?
yeah, Microsoft. Yeah, I bought
I
it.
didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know.
You can, and it's yeah, I'd say it's 95% the same as on Windows. There are some quirks, some tweaks that are different, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. And VoiceOver works really well with that. So, especially since I started using GPT, I love uploading those huge Excel files and asking it a bunch of questions. That saves me a lot of time of trying to navigate through the Excel. So those together work perfectly.
That's good. Yeah. Speaking of ChatGPT, how accessible is it for you with your screen reader?
Mobile app, amazing. The mobile app is perfect, like really, really good. works really well. There's only not 100%, but I'd say 95, 96%, because when GPT gives an answer, it's not broken into paragraphs. You either listen to the whole thing or you just have to copy it some place else to break it down.
Um,
That's the one thing. But using it, going through settings, it's amazing. On the computer, like on Mac with Chrome, it's fairly accessible. You can do it. I started creating assistants myself. That was a bit more challenging because it involves a bunch of other layers and tabs. But it's doable. But again, I think it's doable for me that I'm an expert user, and for you that you'll be able to do it. Someone coming in, a beginner, it's going to take a while. There's a learning curve there.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, learning curves for tools, because that's why you need to make things simple, because yeah, different users have different levels of. But it's good at least that ChatGPT is. I'm surprised that it's well accessible, so that's good.
Yeah. And that learning curve is not just, for example, it's not just for the GPT itself. It's also for the tool, the voiceover in this case, with GPT, right? Because there's a whole
Oh, yeah.
bunch of different shortcuts and ways to go about it. But yeah, I think it's good, and especially, and this will take me to the next question. And for example, especially for small businesses, which I've been dealing with for digital marketing purposes and consultancy. It's easier because it's cheaper, right, to do these things in GPT, creating those assistants for them and so on. Accessibility aside, of course, but it takes me, especially for small businesses, and wow. Okay, let me context. My experience is small businesses. They do have there's a lot of will to do things right and
Okay.
address accessibility, but accessibility is expensive. What's your take on this? Like, how do you think small businesses should approach accessibility? What's the major blocker there?
So this is a good question. Now, when it comes to price, of course, you have to bake accessibility from the ground up. So if you're a business, and you hire a web developer, it's very easy to estimate, web accessibility, though they can say yes and not actually know it, or they think they know it. So, but when you're a small business, you have limited budget, but it depends how you spend it. A lot of small businesses spend their money for things that are very vanity, like swag, socks, branded underwear, but they don't spend the money on like a good website. And they use the excuse of like, yeah, our budgets. So I think it's important and it also shows the values, because a lot of businesses say, okay, our values are our customers, they're always right. We need to make everything good for them, but website is not accessible. So, and I think, yeah, and that goes for big companies too. You need to bake in accessibility. Like the website I'm making right now, I'm baking accessibility as I'm coding it. Like I finished the header, I'm putting an ARIA label on the logo. So, what do you think? How do you think small businesses can?
Yeah, so I've been working with SEO for like almost 2 decades, and I think that accessibility suffers from the same problem. Is that it's very hard to show companies the value of what we're doing, because it's not an immediate thing, right? And every time I talk about the SEO, oh yeah, we need to show up on Google, and then a month goes by, 2 months goes by. So why aren't we showing up on Google, and so on? It takes time. The thing with small businesses, that's it. Like they want results really fast. There's have been very few small businesses that gave me the necessary time for things to happen. With accessibility, sometimes it's even harder, because while SEO it provides some kind of results a few months from now, accessibility does not, right? Because we cannot prove that the website has more people that require accessibility going into the website. So the ROI, let's say, it's very hard to show. What I've been doing for a few years now is relating the two. So I've been connecting SEO and accessibility, because they do work together very well, right?
That's right.
You tried?
No, no, I'm sorry. I mean, that's right. I haven't tried it that, but yeah, it's a good idea. So that you can marry them.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good approach because you do so accessibility and SEO. They have around 50 to 60% of things that correlate when you do again when you create a real nice structure for accessibility accessibility for the screen readers. You're also
Yeah.
helping Google to read your website much better because Google is very blind. The crawlers are very blind. When you take care of every alt text or every tag, every label, every image, you're also helping accessibility because someone that goes in with a screen reader knows exactly what they're seeing or what they're looking at. So again, that's how I try to provide value for both. It's a twofer. It's a two for one. You buy this and you can also get both SEO and accessibility. And then of course there are specific things from one. So yeah, for small businesses, that's the approach I've been trying to take because I know that they want those results faster and quick. For major companies, I do try to separate. I do state that thing that they correlate and there's intersection between the two, but I
Yeah.
want big companies to have a focus, different focus on those two things because again, like you said before, accessibility should be a structural thing, a fundamental thing that they work on, and
Yes.
SEO, whether we like it or not, can be a thing that you do like in the middle of the project or even in the end, unfortunately. But I always bring more attention to accessibility just because it needs that structural intervention.
Yeah, I like the idea of structural, interaction. And what do you think of those? What do you think of they say AI is going to stop people from visiting a website, because you get all the answers. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's the dilemma that SEO professionals are facing right now. I mean, right now for the past year, I'd say, and
Yeah.
in one hand, it's true. Like you see with the AI overview that Google is putting out there,
Yeah.
even Bing is showing also the same thing. So when so the way going forward, the way that we are, at least me as an SEO professional, I'm going about this is I'm separating the funnel, the intention. There's an intent to every search that people do. So if I just want information, yeah, they're not going to your website. They're going to ask GPT. They're going to ask Google, and they're going to look into the AI overview because it's the first thing that's going to come up on a separate note, this already happened when the snippets appeared, when those snippets on the top of the page appeared. Right? You asked a question.
Oh, that's right.
So this is that with steroids, of course. Now AI overview is addressing more specifically what you're searching for. So intent is there, informational intent. There's going to be a diminishing in clicks, although impressions are going to rise if your website is accessible and SEO
Yeah.
friendly. On the other hand, people cannot buy through AI. People cannot subscribe through
True.
AI, right? So
True. Yes.
all those websites that rely on CTAs, that rely on some kind of transactional uh, interaction between user and the website, those are not going to suffer at all, in my opinion.
Okay, that's a good insight. And you're right about the snippets. I forgot about them. That was a few years ago. So yeah, but you can't buy stuff from AI. So
Exactly. And yeah, and you can ask it a lot. So, for example, I'm on the verge of buying a huge monitor for my setup here, like a 43
all right.
inch. And I spent, I think it was like a few days ago, I spent 2 hours speaking with GPT and asking him all sorts of questions, right? And those queries, they're not showing up yet because there's no analytics for AI, or at least for the native apps. But in the end, I'm going into my favorite store or I'm going to Amazon or so
Right.
on, and I'm going to buy it right there. So yeah, there's that difference in intent that it's very going forward. Intent is going to be the one differentiating factor, I think.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, intent and getting information, but you still go to the site to make a purchase. Yes.
Yeah, there's no way about it. um, yeah, we're almost at the end, but I would love to hear your thoughts on what accessibility looks like going forward. Like if someone came to you and said, one of your students, hey, this is amazing, I really want to, well, not one of your students because they're already doing that step, but someone that wanted to go into accessibility and try it out, what would you say to them?
So the first thing is, what do they do for a living? So if they're a designer and they say, okay, I want to do accessibility, I want my designs, my brochures to be more accessible, then I'll usually go with color contrast, use of color, just make sure there's baby steps until they understand. If they're a developer, then I'll say, okay, so you need semantic HTML, just going from the simplest to the more difficult, I think is the way to go.
I mean, I think that, yeah, that's a simple approach. I think that makes sense. Having in mind what they do for a living. Um, what has been your experience like teaching online and yeah, what overall? What's your experience? What do the students say, and what do you feel? It's something that you like, something that you're going to continue doing.
Yeah, I think with accessibility, it's kind of a paradox because there isn't enough information, but there's also a lot of information at the same time. So like they don't know, should I learn the WCG? And the things with the WCAG is because everyone says, okay, it's a baseline, 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 so they just skip it, and it's a big, big, big document, so you need to read it. I have it on flashcards, and I try to remind myself with like when I'm at an Uber or waiting in line, I'm like, okay, I need to refresh myself. And I think, I think a lot of people skip the fundamentals. So you got to learn the WCAG, and you just have to need to know it, very good idea of it. And but I see a lot of people, you know, the things have turned because, before accessibility wasn't even talked about, but now it is. So that's good. But every time you get into a new sphere, like I learned pickleball last week, and it's so strange, and until you get used to it. But I also had someone to teach me. So if you're trying to learn by yourself, it's very hard because you don't know what's right and what's wrong. So that's what I think.
Yeah, no, for me, and going a bit like you just mentioned something interesting. That is that when you're learning, for example, I want to learn. Yeah, I want to learn guitar, and I've been offered a bunch of oh yeah, you should use this app or that app.
Oh, right. Yes.
But for me, the human, not even the human contact, the way that the fact that I have someone there telling me, no, your finger is wrong, do it this or that way. For me,
Oh,
it's
yes.
so important that I do value that, and I think that going there's a trend going on, and I just came from Mind Valley, right? And Mind Valley is this personal growth website and company, and they're moving forward. They're going to focus a lot on AI and how AI is going to teach everyone else to do
Oh,
things. And I think that it kind of takes the human factor out of the human factor out of the equation, and that kind of breaks, for me at least, my experience is that it breaks the connection. You're mentioning empathy early in this conversation, and I think that's it. There needs to be some empathic connection between teacher and student, just so that I'm interested in what you're saying. Otherwise, it's just not going to connect. and I yeah, and so yeah, that's really cool that you're doing that. And for our listeners, where can we find you?
oh yeah. I'm on LinkedIn at Stefany Newman. I also have a GitHub account, Stephanie dash Newman, and I'm also on Udemy, as the same name. And I have a YouTube called Web Accessibility Education, where I post videos, and I also have an accessibility blog.
Okay,
So yeah.
amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for this hour that we passed. Thank you so much for your
Oh,
inputs and
thank you,
for your
Pedro.
insights. Yeah, and really looking forward to speak to you again sometime.
All right. Yes, I'd love that.
Okay,
Okay.
cheers.